but these are caricatures. And this is the cartoonist, one of the cartoonists who does a cartoon of Muhammad. This is part of the series. This is a police lineup, and presumably, I think this is meant to be Muhammad with a halo, in the police lineup, and I don't recognize him, says the guy who identifies us. And this one, relax, folks, it's just a sketch made by a Dane from the southwest Denmark. Here these policemen, or whatever, religious policemen ready to strike with a sword when the guy's, well, just relax, it's just a sketch made. Here's some more prophet blackboard. This refers to, if I remember correctly, that particular one, it refers to in an Islamic madras school in Denmark, some, and it says here, friend from a foreigner. So this is the son of a Muslim immigrant who is going on board in Persian and Arabic. That he's saying that the Jilan Post newspaper journalists are a bunch of reactionary provocateurs to sort of incite his student mates against the newspaper. And it's sort of, again, another sketch of Muhammad trying to look innocent, but notice the horns, right? Now this one is part of that series showing one of the cartoonists, right, who is sketching the prophet, but he looks, he's sort of afraid of what might happen. I mean, sort of afraid that he may get killed and so on and so forth for that. Now keep that in mind, because I want to come back to it. I want to refer to it when I come back to what happened quite recently what happened when in February of this year the Danish newspapers reissued the cartoons. They reissued them. Although the Danish government said, this is terrible, never, but then the Muslim community in Denmark said, you should arrest this guy, you should stop the publication, you should arrest the cartoonists who just, and the Danish Minister of Education or whatever said, no! Sorry, we're sorry for that, but what is absolutely important for us is freedom of expression. So, the cartoons then added, and here's the cartoon done March 30, I pulled it out of the Fall News and Observer, March 31, 2008, right? I mean, this is what we're talking about 2 weeks ago, less than 2 weeks ago. Here's the Danish cartoonist, see? And here are all kinds of, imams, terrorists, chopping off, again, the head. You see the structural similarity from one cartoon to the other. He could hurt someone, as if a cartoon can hurt someone. Well, I think that's just about all except for one more slide. How much time do I have? Another hour and a half? No.
It's almost 9 o'clock.
It's almost like
Yeah.
How much time? Wait a minute.
4 minutes.
Huh?
4. Within 4 minutes, you will have spoken 1 hour.
That's a bit of a challenge, isn't it? Okay. Sorry, no, I'm sorry. I get to develop perhaps too much. Okay, let me see what I can do to speed things up. Because now let me bring Durkheim into the equation.
4 minutes for Durkheim.
Durkheim, in the elementary forms of the religious life, differentiates the world that we relate to in terms of sacred and profane, right? And in his analysis, the sacred must be protected in some ways from contamination by the profane, okay? What happens, now I ask, as part of an unfolding analysis, what happens when the sacred gets violated? Durkheim does not, in some ways, go into what happens. There are several ways, in some ways, that the sacred can be violated. One is, in some ways, profanation. I mean, if there's contact, if somehow the impure comes into contact with the pure, if the profane can soil, damage, in some ways, the sacred, right? The obverse is interesting too, by the way. Namely, what happens when the sacred touches the profane, things can be sacralized. And this is something which is another day's analysis, but which is a very, very fascinating aspect, how a person or a thing can let's say, if a sacred figure touches the profane in some ways feels a certain sacredness. In some ways, this is, if you're interested in power relationships, if somebody who's the president of the United States or the president of the monarch comes in and shakes hands, right? You feel a certain kind of, this is the hand that touched J.F. Kennedy or Martin Luther King or this and so on. So there's a certain kind of sacralization that takes place, right? It's a fascinating kind of process. When the sacred gets profane, there are several ways that it can be profane. There can be, in a sense, an unleashing of emotions of a variety, great variety. And Durkheim doesn't give us the full gamut. What I want to say, but Durkheim does suggest that that anything which is part of the sacred itself has certain kind of sacred quality. So a cartoon, I suggest a cartoon as an object which is part, however, of a larger religious sacred, if it's violated or if it's profane, it generates the same reactions as the sacred itself. And I think in some ways this is what happened. One, what was the situation of the Muslim world for which the profanation of the sacred generated this strong reaction? I want to suggest that in parts because it's the situation of the Muslims in Europe has become or became very marginalized. That the first generation of immigrants came as workers, let's say, or as political refugees. But with the concentration in urban cities and the rise sort of a marginalization, so that for which the second and third generation feel very, in some ways, very vulnerable, very defensive about the situation, and in some ways, the larger